Okay, the meeting is live.
All right. Frank and Ashley, are we all good to go?
The meeting is live.
All right. Frank, are we good to begin?
Yes, we're good. Thank you.
All right. Okay, we'll go ahead and begin then. All right, we'll begin with our call to order. I now call to order the public hearing of the City of Tarpon Springs on Monday, June 29th, 2020 at 10:01 a.m. The purpose of conducting this public hearing is as a requirement of the Rebuild Florida Critical Facility Hardening Program and the Rebuild Florida General Planning Support Program. We'll begin with announcements. This is to announce that public comments on these items will be allowed after each item and at the end of this public hearing. Comments will also be accepted until July 9th, 2020, and can be emailed to Ashley Tobin at projectadmin@ctsfl.us or mailed to the attention of the Project Administration Department at P.O. Box 5004, Tarpon Springs, Florida 34688. And next we will go ahead and begin with our public meeting with our first item. The first item is item number 1A, which is introduction, and I'll go ahead and share this content with the meeting. Just one moment, please. I'm just having a little bit of difficulty sharing this content.
Hey, Tommy, it looked like it was up on your screen momentarily, the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to make sure that I can get the agenda up, and where I can also see the agenda and the presentation for everybody. All right, let's try this one. There we go. Okay. So we'll now begin with item number 1A, which is our introduction to the Community Development Block Grant, Mitigation, or CDBG-MIT funding program. My name is Thomas Kiger. I'm the wastewater treatment division. I'm sorry, the wastewater division manager for the City of Tarpon Springs, and I will be presenting this item. Today we'll have several presenters. Myself, we'll have Earl Nash, the water division manager, Nick Macris, a senior project manager with the City of Tarpon Springs, Craig Dolan, the recreation superintendent, Carol Clark with ADVENTHEALTH North Pinellas, Doug Armstrong with ADVENTHEALTH North Pinellas, and Lori Viola with Hardening. The Community Development Block Grant Mitigation Program is a grant program administered by Rebuild Florida, which is a department within the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. Funds for this program are from federal funding for disaster recovery. Specifically, this funding is for long-term recovery programs from hurricanes Hermine, Matthew, and Irma. According to the criteria of this funding source, at least 50% of these funds must be spent in areas designated by the Department of Housing and Urban Development as most impacted and distressed areas from those hurricane events. Remaining funds can also be spent in state-designated most impacted and distressed areas. These are shown here on the map to the right. The state-designated areas are in orange, and the HUD-designated areas are in green. As you can see, Pinellas County is a state-designated area and is eligible for funding. Additionally, at least 50% of funding from this program must benefit low to moderate income communities. 50% of this funding is required to be expended within 6 years by the Department of Economic Opportunity, and the state has 12 years to expend all of these funds. There are two programs which we are going to be discussing today. The first is the Rebuild Florida Critical Facility Hardening Program. This program has an allocation of $75 million. The project maximum cost that can be granted through this program is $15 million, and the minimum cost is $50,000. Applicants must be units of general local government, such as or state agencies or non-governmental agencies that partner with local governments or state agencies. So in this case, the City of Tarpon Springs qualifies as a local municipality. Again, the geographic eligibility is limited to those most impacted and distressed areas, and there's other national objectives that the Housing and Urban Development is trying to meet, such as addressing low to moderate income areas and also urgent needs from an infrastructure perspective. Some of the hazards that should be addressed through this program are flooding, severe storms, tropical cyclones, coastal erosion, and wildfires. This program is also designed to protect specific community lifelines, such as safety and security, health and medical infrastructure, energy and communications infrastructure. And these are listed below on this graphic. Examples of critical facilities that are eligible for this pot of funding include potable water facilities, wastewater facilities, fire and police departments, hospitals, and emergency shelters. There's additional requirements to be eligible for funding. A grant proposal must be compliant with the state mitigation plan. It has to have a beneficial impact on the designated disaster area, even if located outside of the designated area. It must solve a problem independently or be a functional part of a solution, and there must be assurance that the project as a whole must be completed. Additionally, all these projects must be funded by the state, must be cost effective, and substantially reduce the risk of future damage, hardship, loss, or suffering resulting from a major disaster. Some of the examples of things that are eligible for funding include wet and dry proofing of facilities, roof anchoring projects, retrofitting buildings, energy resiliency such as generators, support services, and project administration and management. Ineligible costs for this program include travel, political activities, lobbying, furnishing, and personal property, and other costs determined as unallowable pursuant to federal laws or regulations. If you would like additional information on either of these programs, these are also available on the State Department of Economic Opportunity website, and you can review the complete program guidelines there. The second program that we're going to be discussing today is the Rebuild Florida General Planning Support Program. This program has an allocation of $20 million, and this application cycle runs from May 15th through July 31st, 2020. The maximum allocation from this program is $10 million, and the minimum allocation for a grant is $20,000. Again, to be eligible, applicants must be a state agency, a unit of general or local government. Also, educational institutions and nonprofits can apply. This program has similar geographic eligibility requirements. The city of Tarpon Springs will be eligible as a part of Pinellas County, which is a state designated area under this program. This program also has similar requirements for low to moderate income communities, and the hazards addressed are the same as in the previous program. The hazards addressed include flooding, severe storms, tropical cyclones, coastal erosion, and wildfires. There are specific community lifelines this program is also trying to protect. These include safety and security, food, water and shelter, health and medical, energy infrastructure, communications infrastructure, and transportation and hazardous materials. Eligible activities under the General Planning Support Program include regional mitigation plans, modernization and resiliency planning, comprehensive capital improvement and community development mitigation planning, floodplain and wetland management plans, upgrading mapping, data, and other capabilities to understand disaster risks, as well as planning public service activities for flood insurance programs and education and outreach campaigns. Ineligible costs include material and supply costs unrelated to GPS activities. So GPS activities are eligible as part of planning. Costs not associated with development of plans or planning activities, such as construction costs, furnishings, political activities, payments to for-profit businesses, while the owner is subject to unresolved findings in other cases for noncompliance for funding programs, and also construction and engineering costs associated with a specific plan. That's for other funding programs. All right. We'll now go to public comments for item 1A. Please raise your hand virtually, state your name and address for the record as we call upon you. Ms. Tobin, have we received any emails on this item?
I have not received emails regarding this item.
Mr. Ellis, do we have any attendees who have raised their hands wishing to speak on this item?
There are no raised hands at this time.
Okay, we will proceed to item number 2A, which is the Rebuild Florida Critical Facility Hardening Program, ADVENTHEALTH North Pinellas Emergency Cooling Generator Project. And this will be presented by Carol Clark, the Safety and Security Specialist for ADVENTHEALTH North Pinellas, and Doug Armstrong, the Director of Facilities and Construction for ADVENTHEALTH North Pinellas. I will go ahead and provide the content. Mr. Armstrong, you may begin at your convenience.
All right. Good morning. My name is Doug Armstrong. I am the Director of Facilities and Construction here at ADVENTHEALTH North Pinellas. ADVENTHEALTH North Pinellas is a 168-bed hospital located in Tarpon Springs that has been part of this community since 1927. We are applying for 2 of these grants today as part of the Critical Facility Hardening Program. When this hospital was built, it was not built to withstand hurricane and strong storm winds and storm pieces of a storm. So we have a couple that we need to do to give us the ability to stay in this hospital during a storm. The Tarpon Springs, the ADVENTHEALTH North Pinellas Hospital is a facility owned by Tarpon Springs and run and managed by ADVENTHEALTH. So in 2017, during Hurricane Irma, this hospital had to be evacuated due to being above a Category 1 hurricane. So anytime we have a Category 1 hurricane coming into this area, we would have to evacuate the hospital, which really puts safety implications to our patients and to our staff, puts burdens on other hospitals that we have to evacuate too. So we feel these projects are extremely important. So getting on to the projects, the first project that we are applying for is a emergency generator that will provide emergency power for our cooling and heating systems. As you can see on the plans that are being shown on the screen, you can see the building that is going to be built. AdventHealth is already funding a $7.9 million project to build this. I think our slides maybe have skipped up to the exterior skin. Can we back that back up to the generator project? So all that said, AdventHealth is already funding a $7.9 million project to build a energy plant building and put in the first generator that we need to supply emergency power to our critical care, to our life safety, and other electrical components in the hospital. This is replacing some 35-year-old generators that are currently have reached their life expectancy. The project that we're applying for would add a second generator that would supply power to our air conditioning and heating in the facilities, our chillers and our air handlers throughout the facility. This is approximately a $7.6 million project, and we are asking for the funds for the entire project. So you can move on now and there is the budget for the, on the slide for the emergency cooling generator. We hired a design firm, Hunt and Brady. We hired a engineering firm, TLC, and we brought in a general contractor, Brasfield Gorey, to help us put this budget together. Moving on to the second project, which is an exterior skin project. I'm sorry.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
We're going to be doing public comment after each project.
Oh, okay.
All right. We'll now go to public comments. Please raise your hand virtually, state your name and address for the record if called upon. Ms. Tobin, have we received any emails on this item?
I have not received any emails regarding this item.
Mr. Ellis, do we have any attendees who have raised their hands wishing to speak on this item?
There are no raised hands at this time, but Mr. Macris, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, sorry, that was for just making sure we caught up to the slides earlier. Thank you, though. I have no comments on this project.
There are no other raised hands at this time.
All right. So there are no public comments. We will go ahead and proceed to the next project, the next item on the agenda, which is the AdventHealth, the Rebuild Florida Critical Facility Hardening Program, AdventHealth North Pinellas Exterior Skin Replacement Project. All right, Mr. Armstrong, you may begin again.
All right. So as stated before, AdventHealth North Pinellas is a 168-bed hospital that's been in this community, in Tarpon Springs community, since 1927. It is When it was not built to withstand hurricane force winds. As you can see on the slide that is up now, a portion of the building, the skin of the building was blown off during that hurricane. The hospital was evacuated. And we also feel that other parts of the hospital during that storm were compromised. So we were significantly weakened for the possibility of a Category 1 hurricane in this area again. If one were to be forecast for here, we would be evacuating the hospital again, putting our patients at risk, and it's also our staff, and burdening the hospitals that we evacuate to. So we have developed a plan along with a design firm, Hunt & Brady, TLC Engineering, and Bradshaw Gorey Contractor, to put together a plan to reskin the building. If you move on to the next slide, this is the existing building as it stands today. And then going to the next slide, there's a rendering of what the building would look like after we reskin the building to withstand a Category 5 hurricane. It'll be built with storefront type windows on the front and a much enhanced EFIS material on the rest of the building with the missile impact required for a Category 5. This rendering is also showing the hospital after the ED expansion has been completed. This is a multi-year project due to the fact that it will have to be done in phases. Portions of the building will be done throughout this project. It will take about 3 years to complete the project. It is an approximately $19.4 million project. We are asking for the full $15 million, and AdventHealth will fund the additional $4.4 million that it will take to complete this project, which will then bring us with the generator project and with this exterior skin project, would allow us to remain and be sheltered for up to a Category 5 hurricane. As you can see on the slide above, the budget is presented as such. So I'm ready to take any questions.
All right, we will now go to public comment. Please raise your hand, state your name and address for the record if called upon. Ms. Tobin, have we received any emails on this item?
Sorry about that. I have not received emails regarding this item.
Mr. Ellis, do we have any attendees who have raised their hands wishing to speak on this item?
There are no raised hands at this time.
All right, that will conclude our public comment for item 2B. We will now proceed to item 2C, the Rebuild Florida Critical Facility Hardening Program, City of Tarpon Springs Community Center Hardening Project. This will be presented by Nick Macras, Project Supervisor at the City of Tarpon Springs. Go ahead and share this with everybody. There we go. Nick, go ahead and begin at your convenience.
No problem. Are you going to share the screen, Tommy? I'm not seeing the slides. Great. Thank you all. As Tommy mentioned, my name is Nick Macras. I am the project supervisor for the city's project administration department, and I'm here and happy to present on project number 3, the community center critical facility hardening. The City of Tarpon Springs Emergency Shelter Community Center serves area residents and city residents in several different vital capacities. In normal circumstances, the facility provides the city with a central location for education and recreation. The most critical use, however, for the facility is as the city's emergency and natural disaster shelter. The original facility was built in 1980, and the facility has been expanded in the year 2000 to include a gymnasium, main entrance, a vestibule, 2 restrooms, and most recently, as one of our projects, we renovated and upgraded shower facilities as well as the existing bathrooms. The facility currently offers a maximum occupancy of 493 people. And this project we are proposing addresses several of the community lifelines that will be safeguarded or enhanced through the hardening of this facility. The risk mitigated is vulnerable currently to storm and wind damages, and hardening the facility will comply with new building codes as it will provide respite and safety for first responders and emergency personnel. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, this facility serves as the city's emergency operations center in times of natural disasters, and it's crucial that we utilize this program to mitigate natural hazards and ongoing climate risks and threats. Tommy, can you proceed to the next slide, please? So you can see the breakdown currently of the proposed project funding, which is totals $1.58 million. The city will be contributing 25,000 of that total in the way of city CIP, which is currently identified in our CIP funding account, as well as we are going to be purchasing and installing upgrading and replacing the existing windows with impact rated glazed windows to meet current wind loads. That will be done in kind as a contribution to match the budget. So several other things that we are proposing with this our important facility is we are going to replace the roof with re-nailing and sheeting during the roof replacement. The gable end walls will be additionally braced with clips and hurricane clips. We are going to establish roof to ground load paths by installing new uplift strapping from the trusses to the walls and from the wall to the foundation. As I mentioned, we were going to replace the existing windows. Also, shutters will be provided. And additionally, a crucial element of this is a purchase and installation of a 350 kilowatt hour generator, a new generator that will be able to supply power to the entire building. With that, I believe that covers our proposed project, and I will be happy to answer any questions if we receive public comment.
Okay, we will now go to public comments. Please raise your hand, state your name and address for the record if called upon. Ms. Tobin, have we received any emails on this item?
I have not received emails regarding this item.
Mr. Ellis, do we have any attendees who have raised their hands wishing to speak on this item?
There are no raised hands at this time.
Okay, that concludes our public comment for item 2C. We will now proceed to the next item on the agenda, which is item 2D, the Rebuild Florida Critical Facility Hardening Program, Reverse Osmosis Facility and Water Distribution Backup Generators. This will be provided by Earl Nash, the Water Division Manager for the City of Tarpon Springs. And go ahead and share. Carol, you're free to begin.
All right, thank you. As introduced, I am Earl Nash. I'm the Water Division Manager for the City of Tarpon Springs. The City of Tarpon Springs, our division provides about 2.8 million gallons per day of drinking water to approximately 27,000 residents. The project that we are proposing is to install permanent generators at offsite wells that can switch over automatically during power outage events such as hurricanes. Currently, portable generators can be pre-staged or deployed at well sites, but either way, a person has to physically go to the site to switch power over, which is problematic at times during hurricane events, and also there's always downtime associated with that. To get these new automatic switchover generators that are capable to switch over automatically, that is going to be beneficial to the city as a whole, because it also provides us the ability to use those portable generators in other areas of our department as resource sharing during these emergency events. If you want to advance the slide, please. Thank you. So on the slide there is showing some of the risks that I mentioned that are mitigated by the project. It does prevent downtime and the need for someone to physically go out to a site during a hurricane event, which, as we mentioned, can be problematic due to storm. If you want to advance, please. So the funding for the project, the city is proposing to contribute $250,000, which has already been outlined in our capital improvement plan. This constitutes about 34% of the overall funding requirements, which, as you can see, the total there, $730,000 for the total project cost. This is going to greatly benefit the city, as I said, to reduce those risks that we have as far as off-site power for just our off-site wells that we need to produce drinking water for the city. And that's what I have for the presentation, so we can go to public comment with that.
Okay, we'll now go to public comments. Please raise your hand virtually, state your name and address for the record. Miss Ashley, or I'm sorry, Miss Tobin, have we received any emails on this item?
I have not received emails regarding this item.
Mr. Ellis, do we have any attendees who have raised their hands wishing to speak on this item?
We have no raised hands at this time.
Okay, that will conclude our public comments for item 2D. We'll now proceed to item number 2E. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm Tom Kiger. I'm the wastewater division manager, and I will be presenting this item. All right, the next project we're presenting is the wastewater treatment facility operations building hardening project. The project scope is going to be relocating the wastewater treatment facility operations center above the FEMA flood elevation. This will involve adding a second floor to the wastewater treatment facility operations building, and also relocating and hardening critical wastewater treatment facility electrical control systems, including all of the electrical components for our SCADA system. Some of the risks mitigated. Currently, the wastewater treatment facility operations center is below the FEMA flood elevation for certain storm surge events, and is thus vulnerable to storm surge. In the event of a storm surge, this could potentially impact our ability to continue operations due to saltwater from the Anklet River impacting our electrical control systems, and also preventing access to the operations center for our operations staff. Completing this project would enable ongoing operations of the wastewater plant during and after flooding from hurricanes in the event of a storm surge on the Anklet River by relocating all this critical infrastructure above the FEMA flood elevation for these storm surge events, and protecting this equipment, allowing a quicker return to operation and safe staffing of the facility. This project is proposing a 90% to 10% split between grant funding through the Rebuild Florida program and the City Water Wastewater Enterprise Fund. This project will have a design and permitting component as well as a construction component. And here on the left, you can see the operations building and where the second floor would be added to relocate our critical electrical infrastructure. The total cost to the city from the enterprise fund would be $242,000 at the planning level. The grant application request is $2.182 million, bringing the total project cost to approximately $2.4 million. And we will now go to public comment. Please raise your hand, state your name and address for the record. Ms. Tobin, have we received any emails on this item?
I have not received emails regarding this item.
Mr. Ellis, do we have any attendees who have raised their hands wishing to speak on this item?
There are no raised hands at this time.
All right, this concludes our public comment for item 2E. We will now proceed to item 2F. This is the Rebuild Florida Critical Facility Hardening Program, Wastewater Treatment Plant Operations Building and Control Systems Hardening. And again, I will be presenting this item. The next, as I mentioned just a moment ago, the next project is the Wastewater Treatment Facility Dewatering Building Hardening Project. Again, this project is located at our wastewater treatment facility. The project scope is to replace the building shell of the existing wastewater treatment facility dewatering building. This would also, and the project would also include bringing the dewatering facility up to current hurricane wind loading standards. Regarding the risks mitigated, this project was built in the 1980s and does not meet current code for hurricane loading. In addition to housing critical wastewater treatment facility operations equipment for our biosolids handling, this building also houses all the critical backup inventory and serves as the warehouse for the wastewater treatment facility, housing our pumps and heavy construction equipment that would be used in the event for emergency response in the event of a major hurricane. Any damage to this building would severely impact our ability to access this emergency equipment and hinder our ability to maintain ongoing wastewater operations during emergency response. This project would provide a secure storage location for all wastewater division emergency response materials, and also provide an additional operations location for plant control operations during an emergency. This site also acts as an emergency shelter on site for wastewater treatment facility operations staff, and it's critical to be upgraded to meet current hurricane wind loading code. Regarding project funding, the current budget for this project is approximately $1.98 million total. This includes $180,000 in city enterprise funding, or approximately 10% of the project costs, and an additional $1.8 million in proposed grant funding through the Rebuild Florida program. And we'll now go to public comments. Please raise your hand, state your name and address for the record. Ms. Tobin, have we received any emails on this item?
I have not received emails regarding this item.
Mr. Ellis, do we have any attendees who have raised their hands wishing to speak on this item?
No raised hands at this time.
All right, that concludes public comment for this item. All right, now we will proceed to our next item, which is item 3A, the Rebuild Florida General Planning Support Program, City of Tarpon Springs Wastewater Utility Resiliency Plan. And again, I will be presenting this item. Again, this is Project 7. This is the Wastewater Division Resiliency Plan. The project goal is to conduct a planning effort to identify risks to critical utility infrastructure in the wastewater division. The project aims to develop planning level projects and a long-term plan to reduce risks to the wastewater utility and improve resiliency for a variety of risks, including flooding, wind damage, electrical generation, but generally for major improved resiliency during major hurricane events. Project scope includes a review of existing facility records and city and county records that would relate to resiliency and flood risk. It would also include an evaluation of the wastewater collection system based on our current GIS data, which is shown here to the left. That's a map of our current wastewater collection system. The project would also examine storm risks to critical infrastructure at the wastewater treatment facility, including the unit processes that are used for treating wastewater and their relative risks to major hurricanes. Specific, as I mentioned earlier, specific risks to be evaluated in this project include flooding, hurricane wind loading, emergency power generation, inflow and infiltration in the wastewater collection system, and also a planning level assessment of sea level rise risks. Here you can see this is a general assessment of the flood risk for different categories of hurricanes. So this is the type of assessment that we would be conducting as part of this project, examining this sort of information from FEMA and local county planning agencies in relation to our wastewater infrastructure. The project funding for this project, we're currently working with our consultants on this, but the planning level costs currently are $300,000. The city's proposing a 10%, 90% split, with the City Water Wastewater Enterprise Fund contributing $30,000 and the grant funding contributing $270,000. We'll now go to public comment on this project. Please raise your hand, state your name and address for the record if called upon. Ms. Tobin, do we have any received emails on this item?
I have not received emails regarding this item.
Mr. Ellis, do we have any attendees who have raised their hands wishing to speak on this item?
There are no raised hands at this time.
Okay, this concludes all of our projects. We will now go, excuse me. This concludes all of our projects and all of the items on our agenda. We will now go to additional public comments. Please raise your hand, state your name and address for the record. Mr. Ellis, do we have any attendees who have raised their hands wishing to speak on this item?
We do not.
And excuse me. Next, we'll proceed to our announcements. Again, as a reminder, comments will be accepted until July 9th, 2020, and can be emailed to Ashley Tobin at projectadmin@ctsfl.us or mailed to the attention of Project Administration at P.O. Box 5004, Tarpon Springs, Florida 34688. That concludes this hearing. This meeting is adjourned at 10:43.